So I think the plan is I'm going to go through a little bit of Tableau at AHS,
Yeah.
Tableau Demo, and just sort of showing, real time, just building some stuff together.
Mhm.
Hopefully there's some questions and interactive stuff that we can do.
Yeah.
And then just I'll wrap up with some sort of future thoughts and suggestions on tooling and, training and,
Yeah.
employment and all that kind of stuff to give people
Yeah.
a
It
sense
sounded
of,
good. Yeah.
yeah. So,
I think lots because as I know, lots of new graduate students in the thing in UC, they probably don't know Tableau. Lots of people, they don't know Tableau. Some people know that, but they never know really to learn that. So I think when they graduated, they try to find some job, they find a lot of jobs need Tableau.
yes, yeah, for sure. So, I mean, and I'll talk a little bit about that because I mean, we're certainly always looking, and what are we looking for? So it's good to let people know.
Yeah, it's good. Perfect. Actually, are you teaching in person or online?
I'm teaching online.
Online. Oh.
Yeah. I think lots of students, they also want to go online.
Yeah, I think so.
Because when I look, there are a lot more students enrolled in my group than the in-person group.
Okay.
Um,
It's 1 o'clock now.
it's 1 o'clock. Yes.
Yeah, I think there's still lots of people there coming.
Yeah, I think we can wait 1 or 2 minutes.
Yeah. I think we can start now. People may still come in. It's okay.
Polls running in Toronto are leading the race because of previous social media posts. Polls recently
I've got some sound. Can you mute your?
COVID-19 vaccines in the U.S.
Let me check. I'm trying to.
19.
Oh, okay, I muted.
Okay, yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the seminar this afternoon. I'm very happy to have Dr. Jason Scarlett from AHS to give a talk about the Tableau, a very popular data visualization and also business intelligence tools in the current job market, and also it is widely used in both healthcare analytics, also other private and public sectors. And I think it's very helpful for researchers, including faculties and students, to learn these new tools and see if that will be fit your needs in your research or your future job searching, especially for graduate students, because this tool is very popular and widely used in different organizations. I think it will be very helpful for graduate students to realize and see if to look for some online resources or to download the free version of Tableau to get started to learn this too, and stress your ability for your future job. Jason is currently the executive director of enterprise data engineering in the data analytics Alberta Health Services. Jason is joining, telling the competing stories with data and help to influence analytics across organization by promoting data literacy. Jason led the data engineering team to put power to see and understand the data in hands. And he has used Tableau for more than 10 years and provided Tableau training, monitoring, and resources management for AHS. And I got to know Jason, I think, in 2015 when I started a job in AHS and learned a lot of Tableau skills and from Jason. And he's a very nice guy and very, has very excellent expertise in Tableau. Let's welcome Jason to give a talk.
Sure. Thank you very much, Jacob, and thanks everyone for having me. This is sort of a very nice topic. I love Tableau, as you'll probably find out from this presentation. I've been using it for 10 years, and it has helped me in so many different ways. I'm happy to talk about it and share it with others so that others can learn how to use it. I encourage you to please feel free to unmute yourself and ask questions as we go through. The more questions, the better. I want to make sure it's as interactive as possible. So don't feel afraid to interrupt and ask away. So a little bit about me. I'm an industrial engineer by training. Studied at the Schulich School of Engineering, did my PhD there, worked in industry for a time, and then began working with actually the cardiovascular heart surgery program there at Foothills Hospital way back a number of years ago. And that's how I got into healthcare, really doing simulation modeling, what if scenarios, and that's sort of the crossover between the engineering and the hospital service system world. Really about the math is very similar. Alberta Health Services is one big health service authority right now, but it was broken up before from 17, and then it merged to 9, and then about 12 years ago, it merged into a single health region with 5 different geographic zones. We're in the Calgary zone here, so we'll talk a little bit about that later on. I'll show you some info on that, but that's sort of the backstory. But with healthcare, there are definitely challenges. And so what I want to do is really show how Tableau has helped us at AHS but then spend a fair bit of time showing it a demo, doing a live demonstration, looking at just various data sets, whatever questions come up, we'll just sort of poke around and see what we can do. And then I'll give you some of my future thoughts on, sort of the big picture and where things are going from here. So really the challenge is about giving the clinical frontline leaders, data that drives insight, stuff that is going to improve their decision making. That's sort of what we're here for. We're here to improve those decisions, and we can do that using information, using data. But the problem is there's just too much data to consume. There's just a lot of stuff out there. More and more data is being generated by devices that people wear. All the interactions we have are now digital. There's just so much data, and it's really hard to consume all that data the way it is. And so, research sort of says that 50% of our brain is involved in visual processing. And so let's try to use that visualization as a way to understand the data. So visualization begins by asking an intriguing question. Visualization generates insights in an engaging way. And that's why the vision of analytics at AHS is for our people to use data, expertise, and experience to generate actionable insights. And those are meant to inform decisions that improve the health system. Okay, so that's really what our core function is. So the data and analytics portfolio within AHS is really focused on that sort of vision and mission. So how has Tableau affected AHS? A few key things. It's unified analysts. We're a large region, geographically spread out, many different clinical areas, different corporate areas, and this has served as a way to unify us. Analysts are having fun. You'll see once I get into the tool, it's just fun to play with the data and start to see things that you've never seen before in the data. And then the corporate knowledge is growing. It is providing longevity to some of the information products that we're creating. So unifying analysts, because we have Tableau and we have a Tableau server, we have about 450 people creating Tableau dashboards and sharing it across the organization to about 20,000 end users. So Tableau has made it possible to move away from the Excel charts that are on your desktop and on your network drive that nobody knows about, that you've created, that you may even forget about. You have so many of these Excel files and reports and PowerPoints. They're just not easy to share. But with Tableau, you can actually create it, put it onto a server, and then just point people to it, and anybody can look at it and get the information. The analysts are having fun. When you get hold of a tool that enables you to do your work, you kind of feel free. I mean, you're not handcuffed to using a tool that someone has sort of forced on you, that you've been told to use. The people who use Tableau at AHS have all chosen Tableau over other tools that were available. And so it really is good to be able to choose that tool, and then with the tool, do what you need to do. We have a very decentralized control sort of philosophy. We will allow our analysts to take Tableau, connect it to whatever data they have, publish it, and share it with whomever they want. There is no centralized control over the content that's on the Tableau server. Every department gets to own and do their own thing. And the corporate knowledge. What happens over time as you create these dashboards is you have an initial purpose for it, you build it, you release it, people use it, but they come back and they ask a little question. Hey, could you tweak this? Could you do this? And you end up going back over the dashboard, making it better. And over time, the dashboard gets better and better. More and more people use it. And it's become something that people rely on and can point to when there are questions. And at some point, those questions get answered and they start asking better questions, different questions. And then you're able to move on to another question, another data set, another challenge after you've answered those base questions. So that's something we've seen quite a bit with Tableau. The ad hoc questions that come along have definitely decreased because we have this repository of knowledge that has been built up through Tableau. Some examples. This was actually the first Tableau dashboard ever created at AHS. This was way back, I'm going to say 12 years ago, maybe around that time. It was for public reporting, emergency department length of stay. This was the first one. I actually got access to Tableau, and within like 2 days, I got access to data from Edmonton as well as Calgary, emergency department data. I pulled it together within Tableau, created this sort of chart and this description, and ended up creating a PDF out of it and sent it up to my boss, and it went up to his boss and his boss, and it just kept going until the CEO actually came down and said, hey, we want this. This is great. Can you release this to the public on Monday? And we said, okay, sure. So we started using Tableau to report this publicly every Monday, and it's been on the AHS website every Monday ever since for the past 10 plus years. Here's another one, self-serve data. We do some of this where we just expose a data set and we allow people to pick and choose columns, and it will just display the data in different ways. We do daily level, patient level reports. So this is a particular facility, and you can see individual level data. You can see the trends on the left side, but on the right side, each of those rows is actually an individual patient with their time at different segments of their journey through the hospital. So very high level, but also very, very granular. As well, we do some sort of high level reports at the site level, looking at occupancy, how many patients are in the hospital compared to the funded beds that we have. And you can drill down to a specific site, to a specific unit, specific day, and look at those patterns there. So those are some examples of some of the ones that we have internally that we use. There's many more. I think there's close to 24,000 dashboards within Alberta Health Services. And I would say maybe 18 or 17 or 18,000 of those are sort of in production, finalized. So quite a large number of dashboards. And it's really gotten to the point where this is what we hear quite often. Do you have a Tableau version of this report? And it sort of speaks to the culture shift and the expectations of what people are finding in Tableau and how much they find it useful. So we see that quite a bit. People are saying, well, hey, I've got this thing in Excel, but my manager or my manager's manager is saying, hey, can you get a Tableau version of this? Because that's how they want to consume information, because it's easy and friendly and fast. So let's just jump into a bit of a Tableau demo. Okay, so here we go. So this is Tableau Desktop. Tableau Desktop is the tool that you can design in. There is a web-based version that does much of this, but I'm going to show you the desktop version. And really what it begins with is connecting to data. The first thing you want to do is bring in a data set. And there's lots of different data sources that you can actually bring in here. So web data sources, your Access databases, Excel files, SQL Server databases, whatever it may be. You can connect to a lot of different sources and pull those in. Spatial files, if you have SAS or different files, you can bring those in as well. So you pull those in, and basically what they look like, let me just edit one of these here. I have a number of them here. These are my data sources that I've brought in. And this is just a data source on Apple mobility. So Apple and Google track mobility. How much are people moving when they have their devices, and especially with COVID, how much people are moving around versus staying stationary has been sort of a hot topic to understand. Does this affect the spread of COVID? And so they've actually released some data. And Snowflake is a cloud platform. They've actually brought together a whole bunch of COVID related data sets. And so this is one of them. So really it's just a data set. It's called Apple Mobility. And so I would just drag this out here and drop in the data set, and that would be it there. And then I can browse the data and say, what does this data look like? And so you can see here, it's got some sort of country, region, a date. Looks like it has some abbreviation, standardized abbreviation. Then it's got some transportation type, driving, walking, transit, and some sort of difference. So we take that data, we can add more data to it. If I have other stuff that's related to that country or something, I could join in more data sets here. just bring this across and say, you know what, I want to join these two data sets before I analyze them. Maybe I want to union them together. Lots of different things that you can do with it in that data window. But we'll leave that data window, assume the data has come in. We have a list of data sets here that I have already brought in beforehand, but let's start with this Apple Mobility one. I don't know anything about this data set. I haven't seen it before. So why don't I just sort of play with it? And what I'm going to do is I have some different columns of data, right? I think we saw the country region one here. It says it doesn't exist in the database. What happened to that? Let's just double click it anyway. Let's see if it wakes up here. I think it might have timed out from the last time I was working with it. Oh, there we go. So let's just take this guy here. And I'm going to drop in, this is the country region. I'm just going to double click it. Oh, and Tableau recognizes that it's some sort of geospatial thing. And so it's got some different titles here. It's got all the different countries laid out. On the left side, I can also see I have some measures here. So difference and account. So I'm just going to double click on say difference, and it will automatically plot something there for me. And we can make those bigger. We can change the colors to them. And looks like there's some strange colors here. So let's just pick a different color palette, right? And lots of different things that you can do. So I'm just double clicking and dragging, dropping, no coding at this point in time. And there's a lot we can do with this data set. I'm just going to right click and say duplicate it as a cross tab, right? And let's just look at the raw data here. So here's the raw data. I can put a date on here and see how things are changing by month. You know, and you just basically drag and drop, and without any coding, you're starting to get, you know, some more information about your data set. That's sort of how easy it is with Tableau. And this is a little show me pane with some pre-laid out different charts, and you can click and choose any one of these, and Tableau is just going to format your data looking like that. That's a little crazy, right? Lots of different ways of showing the data. Okay, you can customize this, change colors, change shapes, change sizes, all sorts of different things you can do to it. Okay, but let's look at another data set here. So here's one that we have. This is just one about emergency department visits across Alberta. And so the first thing I want to do in here is really look at all these different calculations that we have down here. So resource intensity weighting, what's the age, what's the length of stay, how long did they wait until their physician's initial assessment, number of records. So let's just see how many records there are on this data set here. So there's 25 million records on this data set. So it's a fairly decent sized data set. But what do we want to know about the emergency department? Well, I mentioned earlier that there were 5 different zones. So let's see, how does the zones compare by number of visits? So here we go. We have Calgary, Central, Edmonton, North, and South, and we can see the number of visits in each of those zones. But I guess the question is, when did those visits occur? Well, I don't know when is this data set? So I'm going to look for the first contact date. And I'm going to say, you know what, just tell me what year. Tell me what year those visits occurred in. Okay, so now I can see, oh, that's strange. I've got one visit in 2002. Well, I probably don't want that one. So let's just exclude that record. It seems like a bit of a data error. And that's just how quick you can get rid of some of these issues. And so now we can see here, number of visits across the years. But as I'll mention a little bit later, visualization is what Tableau does the best. And so looking at a data set like this with a bunch of numbers isn't that practical. And so what we want to do is really see the data, right? Our brains are wired to use our eyes in a certain way to see shape and colors, to see differences in alignment. So let's look at this a different way. So Tableau is recommending a few different ways to view this data. So maybe we'll look at it like this, right? So now it's color coded. So now we can see color coded. Looks like Calgary has a lot of visits because it's darker. We can change this here, you know, maybe reverse it, right? So now it kind of pops out which ones have more visits than the other places. Okay, so a little bit more visual. We can try something different. We could say, you know, show it to me like this. Okay, now we can really see how the South compares to Calgary, or Calgary compares to Edmonton, right? Or sorry, that was Central and Edmonton, Calgary and Edmonton. We can put labels on this thing and say, you know what, give me the line, the end of the line, and really label that so I can see what it is. We could label it, show it the, you know, put the city on there or the zone. That's one way to look at it, but how about another way? What about, because why is this dropping off like that? Oh, it's 2021. Maybe 2021 isn't finished yet, but let's look at it a slightly different way. Let's look at it, and right up here, I'm just going to click on the drill down to hit plus. We're going to go by quarter, hit plus again. We're going to go by month, okay? And I can see I've got something strange going on down here. So I'm just going to highlight some of those records and say exclude. Okay, there we go. So now I'm going to ask someone to be brave, and maybe they can tell me why have the emergency department visits dropped off? When did they drop off? Okay, so first of all, I see this here. What's this? February 2019. February 2019, so looks like something interesting going on there. Maybe it's just because it's February. Let's do this by day. Okay, a little bit too noisy, but let's ask the general question. When we look at these emergency department visits by month, what happened? I want to hear someone. What do you think happened around April 2020?
It's COVID.
It was COVID.
Outbreak.
Right. So COVID came along. We had a lockdown, and that was the big drop. Emergency department visits went from 200,000 per month down to 105,000 per month, and then it kind of rebounded, but it's never really caught back up. We're still not at the level it was before. Okay, so this is a very easy way to see that information. I mean, I built this in just a matter of a couple minutes. There's lots of things we could do with this. I'm going to show you a couple other options. So on color, I'm going to drop it and say, let's slice this by year. So we're going to have each year is going to be its own color. Okay, so every year is its own color. So now you kind of get a sense of year over year what things look like. But we can also take this and just do it by month. And now we get the years stacked. So now we can sort of see the last 3 years. So 2019, 2020, and 2021. So you get to see, what's that pattern look like year over year. So just another visualization. Took another 20 seconds, and we've got another way of viewing this data. Okay. So there's so much you can do with this data. I showed there's a map before. I'll show you maybe another map just for Alberta as well. So we have a postal code in here somewhere, I believe, postcode. Okay, so I'm going to take the postcode and drop that over here and see what Tableau does with it. First of all, postal codes are not standardized across the world. And so our postal codes don't match the postal codes in Britain or Australia or anywhere else. So what we need to do, even though Tableau recognizes this as a postcode, I'm going to right click and create a formula. So certainly you can just drag and drop your code, but you sometimes need to do some formulas. So let's just take the left 3 characters of the postal code, and that's called an FSA, a forward sortation area. Okay, so we're going to create that FSA. And this is actually what Tableau recognizes as a postal code. So we're going to come in here and say that this is actually a zip postcode. Okay, and once we've done that, it's going to do some calculations here. And I'm going to drop this on here and say, okay, will Tableau recognize this one? Okay, still some unknowns. Well, what is that all about? Let's see if we can edit this. Aha, we're in the wrong country, right? We're not in the United States, we're in Canada. And so Tableau has already loaded all this geographic data for us. So we're going to say we're in Canada and say, okay, we're in Canada. Let's give that a shot. Aha, there we go. Now we can see Canada in the background there. We can see all the different colors. We can do all sorts of things with this now. We can say, let's go down here and find the number of records and put that onto the size. And there we go. Now we can kind of see, oh, we're getting visits to our emergency facilities, mainly from Alberta, but from all over the place. And curious enough, let's see if we can find it. I'll show you one thing that you would never find in your data unless you actually start to visualize it. What's this one here? FSA is ho-ho, AHOH. And if I showed you the full postal code, it would say, what do you think the full postal code would say? Anyone got a guess? Let's put this on tooltip. Ah, there's more than one there. Okay, tricky, they're being tricky. Let's see if we do a max on it or not. Ah, it's a little different. There's two postal codes there. One of them is HOHOHO. So somebody had a bit of a sense of humor, and I think they decided to pretend that they were Santa Claus. There we go, right? Ho, ho, ho. I don't know who submitted their postal code as ho, 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 but somebody did, right? So that's what that looks like there. So we get a nice map. We can do lots of stuff with this. I showed you the number of visits on the size. I can show it on the color as well. And we can do all sorts of stuff here. Let's reverse it. Okay, and let's start to zoom in here. So here we go. Okay, and way up here, lots of visits up here for some reason. I suspect there's a, an urban center up there, and they have a lot of people coming from around, coming to that location there. Okay, so that's, a little bit of Tableau doing a map. We showed a line chart. We can do bar charts. We can do all sorts of different types of charts. I'm going to try one more thing. I'm going to take the first contact and I'm going to put it on the page here. And I'm going to say, let's do this as month and year. Let's try that. Okay. And what I want to do is really see if this changed. So this is like a little bit of an animation feature where I can actually click play, and it's actually going to be calculating every single month and showing what the emergency department visits were month over month. Okay, and I think if we get closer to the more interesting point over here, December, so we're into 2020, and now you can see the visits dissipating a bit, right? So lots of different little cool things you can do with Tableau. What else can we do with Tableau? Let's look at our triage scores.
Jason, you are getting questions and comments in the chat. I'm not sure if you can see it.
I can't, let me, I don't know Zoom that well. Let me just get out of here and see what the questions are here. Okay, oh yeah, there we go. We had some answers there. North Pole, good. Yep. Can we change the background map? Absolutely, you can change the background map. You can do some advanced analysis in there as well. You can connect to Python and R. It also has some advanced stuff in here where you can do your forecasts and do some clustering, k-means, and different ways of doing it. They'll give you the selections that they have. They have some stuff pre-canned, but you can also do your own stuff there in Python and R. Oh yeah, lots of questions. Okay, and so let me just run through a few more. Fake postal code. Yep, there you go. Why is it on the map? Why is it an actual location? Good question. I guess someone at Tableau figured they would do it in case somebody wanted to map, I don't know, mail. I guess I think it is a valid postal code, because I think you can send mail to Canada Post and they will actually answer it, I think, but who knows? Yeah, interesting. So, okay. If I missed anything, just type it away again, or feel free to unmute. I can show you the background maps. There's lots of different options. I actually might not have them loaded on mine. Any WMS, any web data source for maps, you can actually change. And so I can go to a dark map. I can create my own maps in something called Mapbox. You can get Google in there and all these different things. So lots of different options in terms of maps. So I can zoom in. Actually, let's zoom in down to Calgary. Right, so I can do this kind of map, and I can do polygons and shape them. Polygons with dots on top and all sorts of different things you can do. So lots of different map options. Sky's the limit with maps. So Mapbox is what I would suggest if you're curious about maps. A free thing you can really get a lot of mileage out of is called Mapbox. I think it's mapbox.com. They integrate very well with Tableau. Okay. Is there a library? So you have to have a separate R and Python server, and you can connect to it. And so I'm not sure if I have mine hooked up here, but you go to Help and Settings and Performance and Manage Extensions, this guy here, right? So this is where you'd actually choose, am I going to connect to an R server, TabPy? I think they have MATLAB. Not sure what other extensions you can connect to. And then once you connect to it, you can run your R code. There's special code to encapsulate the R in Python, but then you can use that there. A few people use it in HS, mainly for like confidence intervals and some things that you want to do on the fly with your data set. That's what the typical use cases are for it. Especially when you do things like I was showing earlier, where you're actually, on the fly, allowing the user to exclude something. So here's Calgary. I can right click on this and say, you know what, I want to exclude this and have everything recalculated based on that. So there's lots of reasons for using some custom code sometimes. Okay, so I keep only, right? And let's put this here. And as I mentioned, there's lots of different ways to view the data, right? We can take this and let me just do this by, say, facility. And it really is meant to be sort of a drag and drop environment. So I'll put this by institution. And I think we probably want to maybe sort these here, right? And so you get a sense of, let's just keep the larger ones here, right? And so you can customize this, change the colors, change the quartiles, do 90th percentiles, all sorts of different options that you have. Most of it is just sort of, you sort of right click on it, hit edit, and now you can come in here and change all sorts of settings, all sorts of stuff you can do in here. So lots of flexibility. And maybe I think the last chart I will show you is so putting all this together. So if I have a few of these things built, and I think I blew away my map accidentally, but I'm just going to put it all together into a map. I was going to do something with the triage codes, but we'll maybe leave that for now. So let's do this as a map. Okay, and let's put the triage code on the color, say, and let's just basically keep only these ones. Let's just look at Alberta. Okay, and I will change this to a pie. There we go. Okay, so if you zoom in, let's zoom into Calgary here. And as someone mentioned, that background, the default one isn't really doing it for me. Let's go to Mapbox Streets so we can see Calgary and the roads. Okay, and let's increase those pies a bit. So those pies represent the acuity of the patients. So we have an acuity score when you come into the emergency department from 1 through 5. 1 is the most critical. So we'll color those red. We'll go to 2, which is less. 9s are sort of like an unknown. We'll call those ones green. We'll call those blue and like that. So we'll do it like that. Okay, so that's our colors code. Red is the most severe. And so you can see here, if I click on the reds, the oranges, the blues, you can see the different amounts from the different areas within the city. But let's pull it all together into a bit of a dashboard. We kind of mucked around here with a bunch of different types of charts. Let's take some of this stuff. Let's take a map. Let's take this box plot thing, and let's take this line chart. I could lay it out and do some fancy layouts and whatnot, but just as a, easy, quick, that took me 10 seconds to lay out. I can come in here and say something along the lines of this filter here. This little quick filter says uses filter. So if I wanted to know about some of this trending going on up here, I could actually highlight this and Tableau will automatically filter the rest of my data to just that cohort right there. Okay, so it's this one got a little bit squirrely because obviously they were going to many different places, and I think I will just change this one a bit. Says fit height. Okay. But anytime you interact with it, if I was to click one facility, April of 2010, I can have it filter the rest of my dashboards. Right, so there we go. As you click through it, it will filter. I didn't really think about the filters, how it applies to that one, because I think it has a different date range on it. But I'll just do one more thing. Show a quick filter. This is how you would build a dashboard. And here's the institution name, okay? So I want this institution name to apply to all using this data source. And I will turn them all off to start with. So I'll click all. And you'll notice that it updates. But then I will just pick one facility. Uncheck that. Everything should go blank when I uncheck it, okay? And let's just pick Foothills Hospital Medical Center. Here we go. FMC. So here's FMC stats. And now you can see where the people are coming from to FMC, right? So mainly the Calgary area, but as we zoom out, I'm sure we'll find people that are all the way over into Manitoba, etc. Maybe they're traveling, maybe they just moved, who knows what, but it is interesting to look at. And then it's also interesting to look at, say, children under the age of 18. How many go to the children's hospital versus how many go to the South Health campus or etc. You can do some nice geospatial visualizations like that. Okay. So that's a little bit of Tableau and just slicing and dicing, filtering, building dashboards. There's so much more. This is just the tip of the iceberg, but gives you a sense, hopefully, of some of the power and the speed at which you can do some of this stuff. I will mention, I think someone was asking about the data source. Snowflake is an online database. They have a lot of databases and a lot of open source, I guess I would call it, data. And so you can go in there and get all sorts of stuff about COVID and whatnot. So lots of stuff you can do through some of these online databases as well. But I will skip that for now. Let's see. Yeah. Can we export our data directly from Python to Tableau for visualization, vice versa? So to get it from Python, you can, let me think, how would I do that? Let me just see. If you export it from Python, I'm just wondering what format it's going to come out. If you're saving it to like a CSV or a tab delimited or something, it will certainly read that. But you can see here, it'll read R files, SAS files, SPSS files. So there's a number of those sort of, I want to say, sort of proprietary formats that it will read. But I suspect if you're coming out of Python, you would just send it to a CSV and bring it in. And then vice versa. So Tableau can export files back to CSV or Excel. There's another tool that comes with this that's called Tableau Prep that will actually read and write data from many, many sources. So if you need to read data from a database and get it over and manipulate it, pivot it, shift it around, that's definitely more of a data management side of things. And you can do that with something called Tableau Prep. Okay. So just a few more slides here. Really, the prep. Yep, there you go. Thank you, Jacob. Okay. So what did we really do here? We kind of went through this very quick. Acquire some data, connect to it, parse it, look at the structure of the data, what makes sense, what doesn't, why do you have dates that are out of place, filter it. Just keep the stuff that you're interested in. You saw me zoom in just to Alberta because that's, you know, who I'm talking to. And then you want to apply some patterns. I didn't do too much of this where I didn't do any correlations or anything like that, but certainly lots of scatter plots and different charts that you can do to start to understand the patterns in the data. And once you've got that kind of understanding, start to visualize it. And maybe that's part of mining it too, is just visualizing it to see what it looks like, but put it into a line chart, a bar chart, a map, something different than just a text table. Sort of a running joke internally. I can't stand text tables because they take too much time to look at and figure out the patterns internally. So I'm always encouraging people not to present data as a big table. Give it to me as a visual. Let me understand and see the patterns. And then if I really want to go and see how much did the ED visits volume drop by in a particular month, then give me a table to support it. But start with the visual and then refine it. Need to spend as analysts, we need to spend a lot more time on the tail end of our projects, of our research, of whatever it may be, making it clearer. We have to make it so that the people who have not spent the past 10 hours, 10 weeks, 10 months studying this information, we need to make it easy for them to digest, because we come, I say, with a lot of background knowledge. Even the dashboard I presented at the very end, I knew the process to get to it. And that process, I learned a bunch of things. I learned that there was a ho postal code. I learned that there was a 2002 visit to the emergency department that was in the data. I learned all those things, but at the tail end, I didn't really explain any of that. I kept that knowledge to myself. So let's make sure we give a lot of context at the very end. And then interaction, allowing people to filter, to click, to hover will really help them engage with the data set. One thing I always try to encourage people to do is try to draw the person into the dashboard. Try to help them see themselves, help them see their patient, help them see something in that dashboard that is a little bit more personal than just, here's the population of Alberta. Show them Alberta, but then show them where they live. Show them where their family lives. Show them show them something about themselves to help them draw in and add some context to the data. So big picture, future, looking forward. This is how I sort of look at analytics. There's a data section, there's an analysis section, and there's a presentation section. And it sort of follows along this trivium education. Sort of the elementary school, you're really learning about, you know, just reading. How do we read? What are words? What's the alphabet? Data, we're just storing the information. What is that raw information? Then logic, we start to think about it. What does this relationship, what do these words mean together? What's the train of thought? We're putting statistical patterns, we're applying some understanding and meaning to all of the data underneath. And then presentation, we're really communicating and trying to convey a message. We're trying to persuade someone, trying to change their mind, and that's sort of the third level. So those are sort of the three pillars I see that we need to work on. Anyone working in the data space needs to work on these three things. I think all of your formal training is probably on the analysis side, but you need to bookend it with some of the data and the presentation skills to make sure you've got a full sort of a balanced palette of skills. Some of the tools that sort of fall in here, storage, lots of stuff on the cloud nowadays. I think everything is going to the cloud. It's, you know, on-prem is it's just over, looking at some of the older tools. So things like Snowflake, Redshift, BigQuery, those are sort of the ones that you want to start looking at in terms of just databases. I suspect you guys won't, you know, have to manage and do that side of things, but being aware of that technology, the cloud database solution, Snowflake is the one that I think we're headed towards. It's got a lot of promise. And then the computation. Someone asked about Python, R, SQL. If you don't know any SQL code is a good one to know. It's going to be around for a while. It's sort of the de facto language of sort of the relational database world. So those three, I think, are the big ones. There's lots more, right, that you can learn and are good for more advanced things. If you're doing machine learning or some different customized niche markets as well, genomics and all these things, hey, have their own fields. And then I use something called Alteryx for orchestration. This is when you need to get something into production that is going to live and breathe 24/7 and stitch together stuff from all over the place, from the web, from here, from there, automating computer activities, emails, all sorts of things that you need something that's going to stitch it together. But that's more of a production level tooling. And then for visualization, Tableau obviously is a great one. As students, there's a free version you can get up to speed and learn with. And then I would augment it with something like D3. So Tableau is like no code. You can basically just drag and drop all day long. You could certainly write code, Python, R, all these calculations. They have a ton of functions that are built into Tableau. But if you want something really customized, if you go to D3, just JavaScript, there's lots of different pre-canned examples of visualizations that are very nuanced and niche, and they integrate into Tableau as well. You can take the D3 and embed it into Tableau and nobody would know the difference. So you kind of get the best of both worlds from doing that. Outside of exclusions. So Tableau Prep is where I would do most of the data cleaning. You can do stuff inside, so you can do calculations and all sorts of stuff within. You can't, from within Tableau Desktop, write back to the data. So you can't write from Tableau Desktop to the data once you've cleaned and done calculations. It's a one-way read only. If you want to write back, you'd use Tableau Prep, which is a graphical drag and drop visual workflow. How's working with big data, column side? So big data, you saw, I think I connected to 25 million rows and it was pretty much instantaneous. I would say when you hit the billion row mark, then you have to be careful as to how many columns you have in data in Tableau, because Tableau is a columnar database. It stores the data in columns, not in rows. I would say in terms of the number of columns, if you're pushing more than 100, maybe 200 columns, and you start to have a lot of text calculations, you might run into issues. You might want to look for another database to back end it, but we've pushed Tableau further. So Tableau is the fastest thing we have within HS. It's faster than all of our Oracle SQL Server databases. It outperforms them by about 10 to 100 fold because of its internal data engine. It's called the Hyper Data Engine. So that is what I would suggest. You bring it to Tableau, see how it goes. PCA depends. I'm going to say you probably want to do some specialized stuff. That would be my suggestion, is take that elsewhere. Big data, Snowflake is where I would probably head to some of that stuff. Yeah, so if you wanted to export the dashboards, you can certainly just, there's a few ways. I mean, you can just say dashboard, export, save as. You can copy it as an image. You can export it. You can export it as a PDF. You can export it as PowerPoint. Lots of different things that you can do. So what do you want to export? Let's just export this view. I click export. What's it going to do? And it's going to take the different pictures and create a PowerPoint presentation for you. People love PowerPoint and pictures in PowerPoint, so that's an option. You can do that from Tableau as well. So that would just created a PowerPoint file for me in the background with these images in it. Okay. Would I recommend for academic? So I need to clarify, there is a free student version. So if you're a student, I would definitely recommend it because it's free. You know, you can't beat it if it's free. It is sort of the gold standard that everyone is trying to chase it and mimic. For academics, I'm sure, I know that the U of C has a Tableau server and a whole Tableau team and whatnot. So I would check internally to see what kind of licenses you can leverage. There is a license you can get through your web browser that does 80% of what you've seen. Actually, it probably does 100% of what you've seen me do here today, but it doesn't do the full desktop. It does probably 80 or 90% of what it does, but they are trying to make it equal. So I would even see internally within the U of C if you can leverage some of the stuff they have. D3 is just an open source Java. I think it's going to be d3.org if you want to try that, and you'll see what it can do. Just different visualization templates that you can use. So the mapping, depending if you're doing customized geocoding, if you have your own custom stuff. So within AHS, we have our own postal code definitions because we've tweaked them because we're picky that way. And so sometimes it can take a little while to load up, not necessarily the postal codes, but the polygons that go with it. We have a lot of geographic stuff that we do. It's pretty, it's reasonable. It depends on how much you're trying to push it and how much data, because the polygons that our polygon files probably have 500 million rows in it. And so it can get a little sluggish. And I would recommend to people that are doing the mapping stuff, only bring in the stuff that you need. Don't bring in a whole bunch of extra stuff. So that's always the issue with big data. Don't bring in the stuff you don't need. If it is still big and scary and slow and heavy, then you need to look at a cloud analytic database. Something like Snowflake will help you. So there's a free version of desktop that you can use, that anyone can use with Tableau Public. The only gotcha is you need to save your final product to Tableau Public, which is then open to the world. So that is one that if you have a blog or something, that's a definite good place to put things. When I interview someone, I ask them, what's your Tableau Public portfolio look like? Show it to me. And I will see what they have created for the Tableau Public side of things. Yeah. Okay, good. Academic program, perfect. Okay, let me wrap this up here. Just a few more. Oh, there we go. There's some slides on the training. Okay, I think Jacob pasted some of those in there, but that's some of the training stuff. Free online videos. This is how I learned Tableau. They're great. Some people charge you for learning their tools. They make it all free. Something more employment-ish to think about, and why I like Tableau so much. It checks the box for all of these things. Autonomy. It allows me to do the work. It allows me to wrangle the data, visualize the data, share the data, interact with the data, and control that entire process. I don't have to rely on IT or someone else, a programmer, to do any of that work. Mastery. The training that's available, the extent at which I can push Tableau is really up to me. If I want to do R, Python, that kind of stuff, I can do it. If I just want to visualize and do maps and different things like that, I can do it. It's really up to me how far I want to push my mastery level. And purpose. I'm doing this for work, but it certainly is enjoyable to get, the work output to people and sharing and whatnot. So it enables me to achieve sort of my work goals and the purpose of what I'm trying to do here with analytics in terms of providing insights. So it checks these autonomy, mastery, purpose for me very well. So, and that's why, I love Tableau, and it's been great to be using it. Something I want you to think about as you start looking for jobs, if there's those of you that are graduating anytime soon, these are sort of three things we look for as the sort of the ideal team player: smart, humble, and hungry, or smart, humble, and hardworking. Looking for people that have some interpersonal skills and can work with other people. Looking for people that are not arrogant. We know we all have a great education. Just don't let it go to your head. You can always learn more, and you need to work as a part of a team. And being motivated, looking for stuff to do, being proactive, taking the initiative to always take on more work. Those are the three pillars that we look for when we're looking for people. So keep that in mind. Ideal team player. There's a website. I didn't put it there, but if you Google ideal team player, it'll give you lots more information on that. I think it works, as a good way to round out some of the, more technical side of things that we do at school. I have my PhD in engineering. You're all going through a lot of schooling here. Just keep in mind, there's more to it than just book knowledge. We need you to have some of this stuff here to work as an effective employee within a team. And there's a quiz you can do on this one that will actually tell you where you're weak, and then give you some ideas on how to strengthen. So something very practical and useful, I think. And we just got a couple minutes here. Roles, we're all different. We all have different personalities, different temperaments. Just keep in mind, there are different places to fit in this sort of data and analytics ecosystem. Lots of different types of people work within data and analytics. We're all different, and everybody's got a different place to play, a different place to fill within the team. So keep that in mind as you look for work. Try to figure out who you are and where you fit, and what is going to make you the happiest. So once you find that, then and you get into the right job, things will turn from a job to, you know, instead of just working and slugging away at it, you'll actually wake up early and go to work. And that's where I've got to. So I hope everyone at some point can kind of get to that as well. And just reminder, you know, this is all about informing decisions. So you take the data, you analyze it, and you're really trying to improve decisions at the tail end. That's the whole purpose of analytics, and visualization is just one piece of enabling that to happen, making it easier for people to understand so they can make better decisions. Okay, but I will stop it there. That's the end of my presentation.
Thank you very much, Jason. It's very helpful. I think I saw lots of people, they are very interesting and have lots of questions. And I believe it'll be very, helpful for the student to prepare their future career. And they may, probably a lot of students will start to learn Tableau. And actually, if you go to, Jason is sharing the screen, but there's free resources for you to learn. Yeah, if you Google from any, website, you will find lots of DataCamp, Coursera, YouTube, you'll find lots of videos or free courses you can learn from there. Carrie or Chris,
Lots of blogs, lots of places to learn from out there. I saw a couple more questions here. That was the training. I thought there was one more. Someone was asking something. Yeah, Coursera. The Johns Hopkins has a data science one. Johns Hopkins uses Tableau, and so lots of places. Mayo Clinic, lots of places. Looking for data science. Yep, always look at our job boards. There's always stuff coming and going. Sometimes they are one-year contracts for the clinical area. Other times they might be in some of the other operational areas. So take a peek online, look for anything that says senior data analyst would probably be the way we describe it. Sometimes it's data scientist, sometimes senior analyst. So look for anything like that.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Karen, Grace, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, good. Yeah. If you have any other questions, find me on LinkedIn, or Jacob has my contact info. Feel free to shoot me an email anytime.
Yeah, we post we recorded this video, and we'll post at our UCBC website and probably the Maths Department website. I will send out the link when that is posted. And if you have any further questions about the Tableau, want to communicate with Jason, please let me know. I can send your question to Jason.
Sure.
Okay, thank you very much, Jason.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, have a good afternoon, everyone. Thank you.
Take care.
Take care.